Am I the asshole for refusing to remove a piece of jewelry at the request of my friend on her wedding day? My 31 female friend, 30 female, we'll call Mary, got married last week and I was in her bridal party. For context, we are friends from high school, and all of the other bridesmaids were her friends from college, who I hadn't met until her bachelorette party several months ago. I was supposed to attend the wedding with my own fiancé, but he contracted COVID 5 days before we were supposed to leave and made the choice to stay home for everyone's safety. I tested negative and we don't live together. Our 5th anniversary of our first date was 2 months ago, and he got me a beautiful opal necklace on a gold chain, specifically to wear to the wedding because it complemented my bridesmaid's dress. I asked Mary in our bridal group chat if she was all right with us wearing our own jewelry to the wedding. She said no problem. Day of the wedding comes, all of us bridesmaids and Mary meet early in the morning for pictures outside the chapel. Mary sees my necklace and loves it, and actually asks if she could switch her necklace with mine. Some other bridesmaids chime in and say that it would be her something borrowed. I tried as politely as I could to tell her that my fiancé got this for me to wear to the wedding, and especially since he can't be here, I'd like to keep it on. Mary and the other bridesmaids were persistent, saying it was her wedding and her pictures, and I wasn't being accommodating. But I firmly told them no. Mary then said if I could at least take it off, since it looked nicer than her own jewelry. Again, I told her I'd rather not. I'd like to share the wedding photos of myself in the necklace with my fiancé. She was not happy. Neither of the bridesmaids were either. I received a lot of cold shoulders and dirty looks the rest of the ceremony and reception. I felt awful. After the first dance, Mary's sister came up to me to tell me just how upset Mary was and rude it was that I upset her on her big day. Am I the asshole? It's been more than a week and I'm still thinking about it nonstop, and Mary hasn't answered any of my texts.
Oh man, that one's kind of hard. I mean, first of all, if a necklace ruins your fucking wedding, girl, you got bigger problems.
Oh my God.
A necklace, bitch?
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I want to see it. Oh, it's really pretty.
It's cute, but nothing to have your day ruined over.
No, and it's also minuscule. Like, it is so small. You probably didn't even see it. Also, why would you want to get married in a necklace that another man bought your friend? That's weird.
Your friend's fiance bought her as an important gift to mark their relationship.
Yeah, like you want to wear that in your wedding photos?
What the fuck? That's some bad juju.
Yeah, like in your wedding pictures, like that you're going to have forever. You're going to frame and have hung in your house. That's weird.
It makes me wonder if she secretly at one point had feelings for her friend's fiance.
Mm-hmm. It's always something deeper. Because if it's just that, you're Looney Tunes, bro.
I found out my partner has been putting slugs in my food. I don't know how to forgive him.
I've almost heard enough.
I, 22 female, have been with my partner, 24 male, for 4 years now. I have never known him to do anything like this, but I noticed he started acting a little strange around a month, maybe a month and a half ago. He started putting fruit on the floor in the garden, and I thought it was a bit weird, but he said he was feeding the mice family, so I thought it was sweet and helped him do so. He started being really nice to me around 2 weeks ago and making me food, baking me cakes and stuff, which he never usually cooks, ever, so I was so happy he found a hobby. I did notice sometimes I felt sick and dizzy after eating, and I just put it down to lack of sleep/hormones. A friend of my partner's came into my work today and said he needed to speak to me when I was free. He told me that my partner has been collecting slugs from the garden and putting them in my food, blending them up. He sent this friend pictures of bags of slugs that he had collected and the pictures of blended slugs. I feel really sick to my stomach. I don't understand why he did this. This is so out of character of him. I asked him why he was doing it, and he accused me of snooping through his messages, which I would never do, and got so angry at me for being not able to take a joke. I feel disgusting. I love him to pieces, but I just don't understand his ways of thinking just now. Am I overreacting? I don't know what to do. I feel lost.
Okay. Well, this I don't mean to laugh.
Oh, poor girl.
Because it's not funny.
No, but it's so
It's just
fucked.
so bizarre. It's the fact that he was you can't take a joke?
The gaslighting.
Bro,
the gaslighting.
What the fuck, dude? You've been feeding me slugs and you're mad that I can't take a joke. Okay, first of all,
Dog, what the?
Pack your shit up and fucking leave this dude. That is the most unhinged behavior I've ever fucking heard.
Truly.
At least
does he want to kill her?
It's so fucking random. After 4 years, I thought they were going to say, like, they'd only been together for, like, a few months. So she doesn't really know him that well. That would be like if my boyfriend, right? Because we've been together for 4 years. That would be like if he started feeding me slugs. In what universe? Like, check him into a fucking hospital, bitch. I think something's wrong.
Am I wrong for firing my sister after seeing her blog and not rehiring her without an apology? Basically what happened is I read my sister's blog. It was sent to me by a friend of mine who was asking if one of the characters was me. Spoiler alert, it was. It's a couple of years old and really popular. She doesn't use our family's real names, but they are very similar and use the same first letters. So think real names Kathy, Julia, Marissa, and Brad, and then the fake names being Kathy, June, Marine, and Bob. It's descriptive enough of our lives and what we do for work that my friend identified me from it. It's mostly about her and her life, but there's still a lot about us. A year ago, I had an abortion. It was during the lowest point in my life so far, and only she and my husband knew about it. She swore to me that she would take the secret to her grave. Yeah, she wrote a whole entry about it. A couple of months ago, she and her husband got laid off due to world events. I run my own business that wasn't really affected, and I offered her a job there to help her out. She's not qualified in my field, so I essentially made up a position for her so she could have a steady paycheck. She basically does data entry and other random tasks online from her home. Her blog since then has basically centered on how much she hates it. She called it demeaning work, and then it got increasingly hated, and I fired her. I told her that if she couldn't apologize or see how she was wrong here, then she wasn't who I thought she is, and she could find a job where she felt more respected. It's been a week, and I haven't spoken to her at all. Her husband has been contacting me on her behalf, trying to get her job back as they need the money. He claims she is sorry, but I think if she was, then she could tell me herself. My own husband is telling me I'm overreacting and she's family and I should just forget it. I don't agree. So am I the asshole here?
Storytime about how my wife is trying to turn herself into Kim Kardashian with plastic surgery. She even acts and dresses like Kim Kardashian. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's sending me on Instagram. My wife has always been a beautiful woman, but ever since 2016, she started talking about getting plastic surgery. Of course, I supported the idea. We are both business owners and we lack no money. She even looked at the plastic surgeon that Kim Kardashian uses, and we went to visit him in Beverly Hills. He told my wife that with 3 surgeries, he could make her look like Kim Kardashian. When I heard 3 surgeries, I got really scared and tried to talk her out of it, but she was obsessed and said that she would do the surgery. I had no choice but to just support her. We stayed in Los Angeles for 2 weeks in a hotel while she recovered. 4 months after her surgery, she was really happy with the results. But then she started changing her face. And this is where I started to put my foot down. She began to get all sorts of fillers in her face. She even did that thing where they lift the corners of your eyes and your eyebrows. By the end of the year, she had spent over $100 grand on surgeries. She basically got her whole body done. I will admit, her body did look amazing, but the face was the problem for me. The woman I fell in love with was not the woman that she was anymore. Her lips were ginormous. It was like kissing a pair of balloons. After she started getting all the fillers to her face, it really changed and she did look different. I didn't like it. Her lips were way too big. It got to the point where I was actually embarrassed to take her around my parents' house. Like I said in part 1, her body looked amazing, but her face just wasn't it. I told my parents about how I felt, and they told me I should just be honest with her. So I explained to my wife that I didn't like her new face. I asked her if she could get some of the filler dissolved, not all of it, and she totally flipped out. She said I was being selfish and insensitive, so I had to drop the conversation. But things started to get even worse. She started getting a lot of attention from men. Everywhere we'd go, guys would stare at her, and she would constantly get hit on, even in front of me. I'm not the type of guy to get into fights like that, but I was really close sometimes. Like I said, she also started dressing like Kim Kardashian. She would buy all the clothes from Skims, and she would basically wear lingerie out to dinner. I asked her if she could put on a jacket once, and she told me that I didn't understand her fashion. This is when she also started posting a lot to Instagram. Her Instagram was growing really quickly, and all she kept posting were thirst traps. Once again, I asked her if she could take down some of her posts, but she said no. She obviously enjoyed all the attention, and this made me really insecure. I asked her if there was something that was lacking in our relationship, but of course she said no. One day she got a DM from a very famous athlete asking her to go out. She joked about having an open relationship and how much better her life would be if she was single. This cut me deep. After she started getting DMs from all these athletes, my insecurity got so bad that I asked her to close her Instagram. Then one day out of nowhere, she asked me if we could have an open relationship. Of course I said no. Then she threw a tantrum and told me that all her surgery would go to waste if she wasn't able to date other men, especially all the famous people that were sliding into her DMs. I couldn't believe what she was saying. I felt like I had to agree to the open relationship, otherwise she would leave me. Now she goes on dates with all these athletes. One of them even flew her out to New York. My parents and family want me to get a divorce, but I don't want to. I still love her, and after all, she's my wife. Now she's even buying all the designer clothes that Kim Kardashian posts on her Instagram. If you looked at her Instagram, you'd think you were looking at Kim Kardashian. A few days ago, she ripped my heart out by telling me that she didn't want children. She had worked too hard and paid too much money for her body, and she didn't want to ruin it now. That's when I grabbed her phone and took it away from her. I locked myself in the bathroom and deleted her Instagram account. I even deleted all the male contacts in her phone. I told her I'd cut her off financially if she doesn't start behaving again. My family thinks I'm becoming too obsessed with her, but I don't want to let her go. Now she's not talking to me because of the whole Instagram thing. I also threw away all of her Skims clothes. Part of me thinks I should just let her do whatever she wants and still stay with her. I love her too much. What should I do?
So I'm a 20-year-old single dude living with my parents still. I have a job and everything and plan to move out soon. My brother, 25, has obviously already moved out and has his own place. He's had several girlfriends for the past 6 years since he moved on. Plenty of times I thought he found the one, but didn't. Recently I found out that he's been in love with his new girlfriend, Hannah. As you couldn't already tell from her name, Hannah is of Japanese descent. I was really curious to see what she looked like as I have a personal preference for Asian women. It's nothing creepy, I just like how they look. My brother said just to meet her in person and said that I'd really like her. He came over to introduce Hannah to me and my parents. And man, Hannah was absolutely beautiful. Long hair, nice skin. My brother absolutely scored. I was friendly to her right away. My dad cooked us a feast as a way to get together and also get to know Hannah better. Hannah shared a lot about herself. She shared about her childhood and how she was bullied for being Asian and as a result felt insecure about her looks. My mother talked about how Hannah was a beautiful and kind young woman and they're glad we met her. I immediately agreed and went on a bit of a tangent. I said how it's ridiculous anyone could bully you because you're so beautiful. Asian girls are one of the most beautiful women in the world, with their skin, eyes, and how they're definitely the cutest type of women out there. I pointed out that I liked how short they were and how I love how most of them never have to worry about their weight to maintain their appearance. My brother kind of gave me a glare and Hannah got up to excuse herself and said that she needed to go to the bathroom. My mom and dad said I went completely overboard and most likely made her uncomfortable. My brother came back saying they're leaving and headed off. The next day, I get a text from my brother about how uncomfortable I made Hannah and how it seemed like I was fetishizing her. I found this ridiculous because I was just praising her and finding her beautiful. He proceeded to call me a creep and said I was objectifying her and that I owed her an apology. But I've literally been nothing but nice. I told my friends and they agreed with me that Hannah reacted too sensitively, but my parents agreed with my brother that I should have apologized. Am I the asshole for making people at the table uncomfortable?
Am I the asshole for telling my best friend that we won't be friends anymore after we move out from our apartment? I, 25 female, currently live with my best friend, 24 female. We have been best friends for about 4 years, and prior to moving in with each other, we saw each other almost every single day. We had a rocky start when we first moved in with each other, but we were able to talk through our issues. Our lease is almost up, and we're talking about whether or not we should renew our lease. For the most part, we had been pretty good roommates, until recently we had a huge fight. See, my roommate has a sneaky link, and they're not very quiet. I always try to leave the apartment for about 4 to 5 hours to give them privacy. But the last time he was over, I came home around 11 p.m., and I hear them laughing and talking really loud. It was a Thursday night, and I had work the next day at 5 a.m. I could still hear them around 12:30, and I had to blast music just to drown out their laughing and talking. I told her the next day I was kind of annoyed on how loud they were, and the fact that she was inconsiderate about me having to work the next day so early. She told me it was only the second time they had been loud and late, and I would understand if I had someone too. That statement alone made me upset because it's not about having someone, it's just about having respect for the person you live with. About 2 weeks after that argument, we brought up the fact if we wanted to renew our lease or part ways. She said that she would rather have me as a friend than a roommate. I told her I agreed, but we probably wouldn't be friends anymore. I feel like ever since we moved in with each other, we communicate a lot less. We don't text or hang out with each other like we used to before we moved in together. We usually only talk to each other in passing. That's only because we live together. So, am I the asshole for telling my best friend we probably won't be friends anymore after we move out of our apartment?
Storytime about the most outrageous thing I saw working as a waitress. A guy came in with his date one night and throughout the evening he was the picture of courtesy and good manners. I appreciated it but didn't delude myself that I was the source and figured he was just in a good mood because the date was going well. He was certainly in a celebratory mood because he was sparing no expense. He asked for our highest quality wine, she got our most expensive entree, and he even ordered one of every appetizer for her to sample when she made a remark that she was having trouble deciding. It was a real feast. So the evening starts wrapping up and I get their check. I asked if they'd be paying together or separate and she starts to say separate, but he makes a big deal of saying, "Oh, are you kidding me? Together, definitely together. You never have to pay when you're with me, babe." Then he slides me his card. I get everything sorted and bring out the receipt. It's almost a $300 bill. He doesn't even blink and makes a big show leaving a $100 tip. He thanks me for my service and emphasizes what a lovely night they've had. A tip that size is exceptional, so I thanked him profusely. He said there's no need and goes on to say how underappreciated waitstaff are and says, "Don't plan to tip, don't eat out, you know?" Looking at the mesmerized girl the whole time and not giving me a glance. After that, he helps her into her coat and they go off. However, not even a few minutes later, he comes back and what he says leaves me speechless. Part 2 of the most outrageous thing I saw while working as a waitress. So about 90 seconds later, he's back in the door without her, going, "I think I left my..." Then when the door shut and looking to make sure she was out of earshot, he goes, without the slightest shade of shame or embarrassment, "Mark the tip down to $20, hun. I was just playing it up for my date. You understand." Then turns to leave. I understood, but not how he hoped I would. However, I couldn't make a scene in the middle of work. That's not my place, so I just said one more time in order to give his conscience a chance to sink in. "Okay, sir, you'd like to amend your tip from $100 to $20, is that correct?" Even though I didn't show any displeasure in my voice, he shot back extremely hostile, "Yes, and if I see a cent over 20 on there, I'm going to dispute the whole meal with my credit vendor, so don't try to pull anything." The most frustrating part of this for me was not even going from over a 30% tip to a 10% tip, but rather that this poor girl was being strung along with no idea of who this guy was behind her back. It was extremely manipulative of him, which was a major red flag. I really wanted to show that girl the trick he just pulled, but I was at work and it wasn't my place. However, just in time, something occurred to me and I darted outside hoping to catch him in the parking lot. Part 3 of the most outrageous thing I saw while working as a waitress. I got lucky because he parked on the street and he was dealing with the parking meter. I flagged him down and ran across the street, nearly stumbling into traffic in my haste for this delicious moment. His date was already in the car but rolled her window down since no one expects the waitress to follow you to your car waving her arms like a crazy person. I made it across and said more than loudly enough for her to hear, "Sir, we amended your tip from $100 down to $20 as you requested, but you'll need to fill out a different receipt reflecting your new total for our records. This is just a bookkeeping regulation that goes way above me. It has nothing to do with you retroactively downgrading your tip from $100 to $20. We're just glad you enjoyed your evening." His jaw was on the floor. He tried to pretend like he didn't know what I was talking about, giving me some line about how I must be after someone else since he only came back because he forgot his keys. However, I wouldn't let it rest. The more he played dumb, the more I repeated versions of, "You wanted me to change your tip from $100 to $20, you came back in," and so on. He finally went, "Okay, whatever, sorry for the miscommunication. If you need me to fill out a new receipt, I can." I'm guessing he didn't have the money in his account because he signed the new receipt. His girlfriend was visibly shocked and he was staring daggers through me. You could feel the rage emanating off of him. Then they drove off. Hopefully he'll never do that again. This is why you never truly know someone. When I was 10 years old, I met my best friend. We were pretty much inseparable. All throughout school, we were always by each other's side. Our last names both started with J, so we had almost every class together. He was a smart kid and a model student. However, his home life wasn't the best. He also had ADHD and was bipolar. My family was like a second family to him. As we grew into adults, our views differed on what we wanted to do with our lives. He had his first child when he was 18 and split up with the child's mom, so the thought of college never sat well with him. He worked a 9-to-5 job instead to support himself. By 21, he met another woman and had a child with her. This time he was doing good. He stayed with her and was taking care of both of his children. I was really proud of him for stepping up and getting his life together. Suddenly, something inside him flipped like a switch. He randomly up and left that woman and moved to another state. I hadn't spoken to him for 2 months after he did this. One late night, I was woken up by a phone call from his mother saying that he was in jail. I asked what for and she told me that he raped a 15-year-old girl. He was caught and sent to jail. He was serving 2 years behind bars only because there were texts from that girl saying that she was 18 years old. 2.5 years went by when he finally got out. I told him he could stay with me until he was back on his feet, but he refused. Then things took a dark turn. Part 2 of why you truly never know someone. He decided to stay with my mom for a month instead. Every day I would message and check up on him. I would always get the same vague answer saying that he's good and thanking us for helping him out. One day, my mom called me in a panicked state. She told me that he was in his room with a knife and threatening to unalive himself. I immediately drove over and talked him down, taking the knife away from him. Later that night, I called to check up on him because I was worried. He didn't answer. I called my mom to check on him and she said that he was in his room. I asked her to go check and when she did, he was nowhere to be found. Later, we found out where he had gone that night. Apparently, he walked over to his ex-girlfriend's house to spy on her and her boyfriend. I'm not sure what shifted in him, but he walked behind the house and ripped off a piece of his shirt. He stuffed the ripped shirt in a crack of the window and set the fabric on fire. Then he just walked away. He attempted to kill his child, ex-girlfriend, and an unknown man. Luckily, no one was harmed because the adults in the house were still awake and smelled the fire. They quickly got the children to safety and called the fire department. My best friend admitted to this and has since been in jail. After this, I stopped all contact. It's been 9 years. It's crazy to think that the closest person to you can have a deep dark side and there's nothing you can do about it.
Story time about why I beat up my best friend. So a little background information. Her and I had been best friends since we were in 7th grade. Her family was rich, mine was poor, and at first she was a really good friend. She was always there for me whenever I needed her, until our freshman year of high school, which is when her and I started hanging out with boys. Now, my mom was kind of strict. She wouldn't really let me hang out with boys, but her mom was more lenient about her hanging out with boys. Every weekend she would throw a party at her house, and she would throw them in her attic because 1, it was huge, and 2, her parents didn't give a fuck what she did up there. Anyways, she would always offer to do my hair and makeup before the party started, which always made me really excited because I never really put any work into my physical appearance. Well, little did I know, the only reason why she would offer to do my hair and makeup at these parties was so that way she could make me look like shit in front of all the boys. So after that, I taught myself how to do my own makeup and do my own hair, like for part 2. Part 2 about why I beat up my best friend. So like I said, I learned how to do my hair and makeup, and she went on vacation for like a month straight. Well, when she came home, she threw another party, and she was like, "Don't worry, after I'm done getting ready, I'll do your makeup and do your hair." And I was like, "No, it's fine, I got it." She literally looks at me and she goes, "Are you sure? You don't really know how to do that. Like, it'll probably look really bad." And I'm like, "Why the fuck would you say that?" She goes, "No, like, I don't mean it to be rude. It's just that, like, I want you to look good in front of the boys and stuff like that." Like, sis tried to talk me into getting a shower for a full, like, 20 minutes. So after that, the whole night, she's literally being a pick-me girl. She's making all these comments about me in front of the boys, and I just keep brushing them off until her next party. We got ready, and I put on these expensive shoes that I had just bought, and she goes, "Wow, you just, like, really like to copy my style, don't you?" So she starts making comments that whole night about how my family's poor and stuff like that, and she threw up all over my shoes. So I dumped the trash can that everybody had threw up in that night on her, punched her in the face, and like 2 months later, she came to my house and apologized.
This is why karma has no deadline. I'm a middle school dropout and I became a depressed shut-in from the age of 14 to 20. When I was 20 years old, I got a dog who completely helped me turn my life around. I named him Sherlock, and because of him, I started going outside more to take him on walks. Then I got my GED and started going to college with the intent of giving him a better life. I was 24 and living at home with my brother and my father. Around this time, my brother got a girlfriend. A week into their relationship, Sherlock bit her ankle. It didn't break skin or do serious damage, but everything went downhill because of this. My brother and his girlfriend plotted to kill my dog and throw his body into the river. However, my brother couldn't bring himself to do it and told me everything, followed by breaking up with his girlfriend. A week later, she was kicked out from her residence and my brother ran to her rescue. After they got back together, she would call me using his phone to threaten and scare me into thinking that she would murder Sherlock. I put Sherlock in a training class to sort out his biting issues and he made major improvements. I was stressed and always kept him locked in my room while I was at work for fear of my brother getting to him. I told my brother that I was actively looking for an apartment and would be moving out soon. However, one day when I came home from work, Sherlock was gone and so was my brother. Panic rushed through me as I searched everywhere for my dog. I texted and called my brother, leaving him messages begging him to bring him back. I called the police to report the theft of my dog, but the dispatcher wouldn't listen to me. The next day, I received a call that broke me into a million pieces. My Sherlock's body was found deceased by animal control 100 miles away from home. The city he was found in was where my brother's girlfriend lived. I immediately left home in pure shock. My friends housed me for a few days because I didn't feel safe at home and later found a room for rent within a week because it was easier without pets. I was grieving over the loss of my best friend. My brother betrayed me for a girl he only knew for a few months. After this, I couldn't keep my grades up and dropped many of my classes. I'm also financially in debt because I didn't have much money to start with when I moved. My brother admitted to my mom that him and his girlfriend did indeed kill my dog. However, she doesn't want him in jail. Shortly after, I found out my brother's girlfriend moved into the house. She wanted the dog gone and that's why they killed Sherlock. A year later, I found out from my dad that she died from an illness. I was overjoyed for karma was being served. My brother is now depressed and I couldn't help but to feel some kind of closure. I'm in therapy and doing a lot better, however there's always going to be that missing piece.
Storytime about how I caught my husband cheating on me with our very young nanny. I'm 45 years old and my husband is 10 years younger than me. When we first got married, my friends kept telling me not to marry someone so much younger. They told me that he would eventually cheat and leave me for someone younger. I refused to believe this hope because my husband and I really loved each other, or at least I thought. We met at a party a few years ago and he made the first move right away. He asked me out on a date and a few weeks later we became boyfriend and girlfriend. A few years after that we got married and after years of trying we finally got pregnant and had twins. They are both 2 years old now. My husband's job requires him to travel a lot. I own a really big salon and business is good, so we have a pretty good life and are able to afford a lot of things for our kids. Since my husband travels, my schedule has to be really flexible. I take care of the kids in the morning and then I go off to work, leaving them with the nanny. Our first nanny was a lot older and she had lots of experience, but she unexpectedly quit on us, so we had to find another one. We decided to look for one of those nanny agencies. We ended up interviewing about 5 nannies, but my husband was set on one of them and she was the youngest out of all of them, 18. Oh yeah, and the most attractive too. My husband told me that maybe we should try someone younger so that the kids can have fun, and I said yes. The nanny would cover for me for about 4 hours a day when I was at work. Her and I started to get along really well. She would tell me about her boy troubles and I would give her advice. The nanny and I started to become really good friends. I even started telling her about the problems I was having with my husband. Little did I know that she was the problem. Like I said in part 1, my husband travels a lot. This is what we would usually fight about. You see, it was actually really easy for him to travel less. All he had to do was pick a different region for his job. Instead of a 6-hour flight, it could have been a 2-hour trip. His excuse was that he would get paid less. When I was telling the nanny about our issues, she told me that I should just let it go and let my husband have his freedom. But the way she said it really bothered me. I ended the conversation and told her that she could go home. When my husband came home, I mentioned to him what the nanny said. I told him that I didn't like the way she told me that I needed to give him his freedom. He started to laugh and said, "She's just a young girl. She's probably just saying what she thinks you need to hear." I decided to listen to my husband and I let it go. A week later, the nanny comes over to take care of the kids. By the way, as soon as she would come to my house, I would serve her a plate of food or make her anything she wanted before I left to work. She she sat down to eat, I could see her messages on her phone, and the name on the messages was the same as my husband's. I asked her why she was messaging my husband, and she quickly put her phone in her purse. She didn't even know what to say. When I asked her why she was messaging my husband on her phone, she did not know what to say. I asked her if she was okay. Then she replies with, "I just needed some advice for my car." She was so nervous. I asked her to pull out her phone and give it to me. That's when she said no and started putting up a fight. She told me I had no right to check her phone, but I didn't believe her. I ripped her purse from her hands and grabbed the phone. Before I even have a chance to look at the messages, she starts calling me fat and old, and that my husband is planning to leave me for her. Honestly, what she was saying didn't faze me because my goal was to look at the messages. And she was pretty much right. In the messages, my husband promised her to leave me for her, and that he was sick of me and the kids. I begin to scroll up and see all of the pictures that they send each other. You can imagine what they were. By the way, the nanny was only a day from turning 18. Yep. Out of nowhere, she starts breaking plates and glasses and verbally abusing me. She even said that if I didn't leave him alone, that something bad would happen to me. I grabbed her by the arm and threw her out of the house. But I kept her phone, so I called my husband from the phone. When he hears my voice, he hangs up the phone. When he finally got home, we got into a 6-hour fight. I made him leave the house, but apparently the nanny went crazy. She started stalking him and he had to get a restraining order against her. Serves him right. Her parents are threatening to press charges. I don't want my kids to grow up without a father, but I don't want to get back with him. What should I do?
Am I the asshole for telling my fiance I won't attend his brother's wedding not even 3 months before ours? My 22 female fiance, 27 male proposed back in August. Not even 2 months later, his younger brother, 22 male, decided to propose to his girlfriend, 22 female. My fiance and his brother aren't that close and don't really talk, so it wasn't really communicated to each other that they were both planning to propose. We're older than my future brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and I wanted to get a head start in planning. We made the assumption that because my future sister-in-law is still in school and my future brother-in-law had just graduated college and getting his career started, that they would have their wedding later down the road. My fiance and I put our deposit down for our wedding venue. We get a call from his brother the day after we booked our venue, and his brother was telling my fiance that he is planning to book a tropical destination wedding less than 3 months before our wedding date. Didn't put a deposit or anything, just wanted to let us know what their wedding planning was going to be like. My fiance kindly told his brother to reconsider because it's not even 3 months before our wedding and we already put down the deposit. This is where my future brother-in-law said they don't want to change their date because they've been dating longer than us. Petty bullshit. His brother asked if we would move our wedding date for them, and my fiance said no because we already put the deposit down. Honestly, why would we accommodate to them if they aren't going to accommodate to us? I gave him an ultimatum and said if they go through with setting their wedding less than 3 months before ours, then I will not be going. My fiance said that's pretty fucked up that I wouldn't go to their wedding, especially since I'm marrying into the family and it would be right before ours, but personally, with planning my own wedding, I feel that I am not financially stable to go to a destination wedding less than 3 months before my own. Liar, 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 liar. You're just butthurt because you want to have your own spotlight for your wedding, which I get.
As a child, whenever I was invited to people's houses, my mom told me it was etiquette to eat the food that they made. She would always tell me to put a considerable amount and eat all of it since it would be rude not to. First, she said I would be wasting food, and second, it would seem as if I didn't enjoy the food, which is mean since a lot of effort was put into making it. I've always followed this rule and thought it was true. If I cooked a buttload of food and no one ate it, I'd be heartbroken. My boyfriend of 7 months invited me to his family's Christmas dinner. I've met his parents very briefly, but nothing too formal. Anyway, we get to the food and I was pretty hungry and everything looked really amazing. I made sure to fill my plate, but not overfill, just equal amounts of everything on the table. I ate it all, and to be honest, was pretty stuffed. His mother then asked me if I wanted seconds. There was still a lot of food on the table. I took her up on the offer and put a bit more of the pasta salad. My boyfriend gave me a strange look, but I thought nothing of it at the time. Dessert comes and I chose to eat a slice of cheesecake. We then had coffee, all sitting around the fire and telling funny stories. Everyone seemed like in a very good mood and everything was great. After everything, I was honestly so happy because I was worried about dinner and meeting his parents, but I thought that everything went well. We left his parents' house in separate cars as I came directly from my parents' house to him. We reached my apartment and I can tell he's totally pissed off. I asked him what was wrong and he just blew up in my face that I had no manners, telling me he had never seen me eat as much as I did at his parents' house and it was so embarrassing. After further prying, he said that in his culture, when you eat a lot at a person's house, it's disrespectful because you should never go to a house on an empty stomach. He said that it makes the person look desperate and fat. He said on the car ride home, his mom was talking about how embarrassing and unmannered I was to eat so much. I told him that she told me to put seconds and he said that's son to be a good hostess, but a guest should never take up on that offer. He said it would have been fine if I had declined dessert, but since I didn't, I looked even more fat. I explained my reasoning to him and he called that bullshit. I honestly feel terrible, but I told him that if he explained to me beforehand, I wouldn't have eaten so much. He said that he thought it was common knowledge. It's been 2 days and neither of us will really talk until the other apologizes. I know it's petty not to apologize, but I sincerely don't think I did anything wrong. Am I the asshole for eating at my boyfriend's family's Christmas dinner?
Am I the asshole for uninviting my transgender sister to my wedding? Some background. I have a trans sister that came out to us around a year ago, but has been on hormones for longer and hid it from us until she had moved out into her own place. Probably because our parents are very conservative and known to be transphobic. As a result, there was this huge fight and a ton of people in our family, including our parents, cut her off and don't talk to her anymore. I like to think that I have been pretty supportive of her so far, using her pronouns and her name and all that, which has been hard considering our family gives me crap for doing so. I even make it a point to visit her every so often, while she hasn't seen most of our other family since last year. I also promised her that if and when I got married in the future, she would still be invited despite any tension with our family. Me and my fiance got engaged a while back. My parents, especially my dad, absolutely adore this guy. And since my sister came out, they've almost seen him as the substitute son. Almost as a result, he's definitely more on their side of the situation, and he's made it clear he doesn't really agree with or like my sister all that much. After the proposal, which was very elaborate and surprising and orchestrated by my parents, who are wedding planners, started talking with me about planning the big day and even offered to pay for everything. I mentioned wanting to invite my sister, and they shut the idea down immediately, talking about how she disrespected the family and cut them off and all that. They basically gave me an ultimatum: have my wedding planned and paid for by them, or have my sister there and they don't come at all. I ended up taking my parents' offer because I cannot afford to pay for an entire wedding, and because my fiance pressured me to accept it. I broke the news to my sister, and she's very understandably upset. But I'm still inviting her to a smaller after party via Zoom so we can still be together on my big day. I do feel guilty about this, but now I don't have to worry about planning my wedding or paying for my wedding. So, was I the asshole for uninviting my transgender sister to my wedding? And the top comment coming in: am I the asshole for blowing up on my husband in front of his family during New Year's Eve celebration after he joked about my birth experience? Throwaway because I feel so embarrassed. I, 25 female, gave birth to my daughter weeks ago. My experience was pretty traumatic, and since it was my first, I had no clue what to expect. Forgive me for the vague details for privacy, but I will mention all of the relevant stuff, I promise. When I went into labor, I had the most difficult time of my life. I was in pain for hours. My mom was with me, but she had to go, and my husband was with me the entire time. I did something so embarrassing in the delivery room. I pooped myself, which was unexpected and just, I don't know, but it was embarrassing. And although my medical team was very professional about it, my husband couldn't help himself and started laughing about it later and even telling my family about it, but they didn't react. They didn't find it funny, and neither did I. In fact, I found it embarrassing, and I already told him to stop bringing it up, especially when he started joking about getting me diapers for my quote-unquote oopsies. It got really tiring and chipped away from my self-esteem and confidence. We were with his parents celebrating New Year's Eve together when I excused myself to go to the bathroom. While I was getting up, he made a quick remark and said, quote-unquote, "Oh yeah, you should go quickly because we don't want any accidents just like the one we had at the hospital. You know what I mean?" While blinking at me. His family actually laughed, and his brother-in-law commented, "Haha, good one." I was astonished and so angry and ashamed. I literally just lost it on him and yelled at the top of my lungs, calling him a cruel, insensitive jerk to be using the difficult experience of birthing his child as a joking manner.
And before I start my story, I just want to start off by saying I hate men. I just cannot do it anymore. And I also want to say, can we please normalize natural bodies again? And do not get me wrong, I love the BBL movement. Do whatever makes you happy, you feel me? Strut your stuff, girl. And a lot of y'all be coming out looking fantastic. Some, unfortunately, come out looking a little uneven. But most of y'all be looking so good. And this may be coming from a place of envy in my heart because I am broke. So even if I really wanted one, I could not go get one. And I'm just out here walking around with no titties, no ass because puberty did not catch up with me. But I'm okay. You know, I'm fine. But anyways, back to my story. My dating life is literally so embarrassing. Like, it's reached the point that it's so embarrassing that it's like beyond embarrassment at this point, if that makes any sense. But anyway, so I'm talking to this dude, you feel me, a little wooty woo, and he asked to take me out on a date. So like, this is like the first time that we kind of really kick it in person. So usually when I first meet people, I like to drive myself. So he meets me by my car, I get out my car, and instantly he starts hyping me up, okay? Mind you, I was hyping myself up before I got there. My name is Carrie, I'm so very, okay? So he's like, oh, you look good, this and that, yada, 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 you feel me, hyping me up. Then he goes, you know what, do a little spin for me. Let me see the whole fit, do a spin for me. So I'm like, okay, man, you want to see me do a little spin? I'll do a little spin for you. So I do a little spin, and as soon as I turn my back, this Negro gonna say, you look sexy, babe. We gonna buy you a booty, though, but you look sexy. I was too stunned to speak. Because how would you like it if I told you to drop them pants and drop them drawers and do a spin for me and let you know it was looking a little short? So, babe, we gonna buy you a little extension, okay? You wouldn't like that. You just embarrassed me in front of all these people in the parking lot because that was a backhanded ass compliment. So because I don't got the Kim K Deluxe or the Creme de la Booty, you're gonna assume that a BBL is at the top of my wish list? And at this point now it might be. You had me feeling like it was all crack and no ass back there.
Okay, I have to tell you guys what happened to me today, and Mom, if you see this, I am so sorry. So I went to the adult Toys R Us to get a few things, and I walk in, and I say hi to the guy, and I'm like, do you have this? And he looks at me, and he's like, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, I don't know where you would know me from, like, sorry dude, can't help you. And he keeps going, and he's like, no, I know you from somewhere, like, you look so familiar. And I'm like, I honestly don't know, man. I've never seen you before in my life. And he was like, I feel like I've seen you online before. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, maybe we're friends on Instagram or something. And he's like, no, that's not it. Have you ever done porn? And I'm like, no, I haven't. And by now, other people are walking in and also giving me the side eye because they want to know where this creepy old man knows me from as well. So I'm in a very awkward situation. He keeps going. And finally, he's like, I can't place where I know you from. It's on the tip of my tongue. Can I take a picture with you? I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm just here to get a few things. And he was like, no. It'll only take 2 minutes. It's fine. Oh, bottom line, there's now a picture of me with a creepy old dude in front of a bunch of dildos somewhere in the world.